At the tail end of Action Comics number 12, after a riveting story of Superman battling reckless drivers in Metropolis, comic book readers nationwide would get their first ever glimpse of Howdy, y'all. I've been a fan of Batman for just about as long as I can remember. Could you tell? The Tim Burton films are some of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I can't help but watch the Adam West Show every now and again to have a wholly good time. And the animated series has proved itself in being one of the best animated shows, heck, one of the best shows I have ever watched, period. Oh, and these are okay too, I guess. Whatever, the point stands that I adore the Caped Crusader. However, I've never really dived into his comics. I've read a few here and there. Okay, I've read one. It was The Killing Joke. I find that I'm overwhelmed by where to start. The Caped Crusader has fought crime on the printed page for over 80 years and counting, with quite literally thousands and thousands of comic books underneath his utility belt. And while there are dozens of Batman comics that I could have picked up first, I find that it's always better to start from the beginning. So, let's sit back and read through the first year of Batman comics to see the formation of this legendary crime fighter. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the opening of this video short and sweet because Lord knows this one's gonna be long enough as it is. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and jump right into Detective Comics number 27, The Bat-Man in the Case of the Chemical Syndicate by Robert Kane. The comic starts off in the home of Commissioner Gordon, who is entertaining his famous socialite friend, Bruce Wayne. First off, I find it really neat how Commissioner Gordon was there literally from the very start. A lot of other supporting characters take their sweet time in making their debut, but this man was on the scene ever since the first panel, technically being introduced before Bruce Wayne even. Their talk is interrupted when Gordon is called onto a murder scene. Mr. Lambert, owner of the Apex Chemical Corporation, has been stabbed to death, and a contract has been stolen from one of his safes. The primary suspect being his own son, for the boy's fingerprints were left on the knife when he pulled it out of his father's back. Ah yes, the North by Northwest way of incriminating yourself, a classic. It's quickly found out that Lambert had been threatened the day before, and now one of his past business partners has received a threat on his life as well. The police head out to the man's house, but it's too late. He's shot down in his chair, a contract being stolen from his safe as well. The murderer climbs out of the window, nearly escaping with a fellow thug, but they are stopped by the Batman. The masked vigilante knocks out the two criminals and takes their stolen contract. After reading what's inside, he swiftly heads off to the home of Alfred Stryker, another ex-business partner of the late Lambert. Upon arriving, he saves the life of Paul Rogers, who is also an ex-business partner of the late Lambert. It's then revealed that Stryker had made a deal with all of his past partners, that he would make yearly payments to all of them until he owned the Apex Chemical Corporation outright, and that he had killed the other men and stolen their contracts so that he wouldn't have to pay up. The Batman's ears disappearing in disgust as he describes the heinous crime. So, this man committed murders, multiple murders, so that he wouldn't have to finance a loan. I'm not saying I agree with what he did, but I understand why he did it. Wait a minute, secret contracts not known by their heirs or the outside world? That's not how that works. You have to have some lawyer over these papers. These contracts are about as legally binding as a mass vigilante. And even assuming that they were legally binding, what exactly was he gonna do with them anyway? If these contracts are such a secret that no one knows of their existence, then how is he going to prove his ownership of the corporation? What, is he just gonna show them off to the public, and then hope everyone just thinks he got extremely lucky in the fact that all the people he owed money to were just conveniently murdered? Surely to goodness you realize how suspicious that would be. Anyway, stepping aside from the logistics of this nearly 90-year-old comic book story, Stryker struggles against the Caped Crusader, pulling a gun out on him only for the Batman to punch him in retaliation, knocking him through the railing and into the acid tank below. The Batman's ears disappearing yet again as he watches the man fall into his corrosive grave. Was it seriously that hard for you to draw and profile Kane? Admittedly, when I first read this, I thought, oh, I bet this is where Tim Burton got the idea for the Joker to fall into acid for his film. A nice little nod to Batman's debut comic. But then I remembered that the Killing Joke existed, and I felt a little stupid. We then have the first instance of the Batman disappearing mid-sentence, and later Commissioner Gordon tells his wealthy friend Bruce Wayne all that had happened, only for Bruce to seem rather uninterested in the story. But in the final two panels, it's revealed that Bruce Wayne was none other than the Batman this entire time. I find it simply amazing that the first ever Batman story has it as a twist that Bruce Wayne is Batman. It's so hard to imagine there ever being a time where anyone would have been surprised by that information. Not only because Bruce Wayne being Batman is such a known thing today, but also the fact that it's just not a very good twist in general. Bruce Wayne leaves at the end of one page, only for the Batman to appear at the start of the next one. Who else in the story could have possibly have been? Was there some young kid back in 1939 that was like, oh yeah, this Batman fellow? I bet you it's young Lambert. Okay, to be fair, I don't even think this is really supposed to be a plot twist as much as it's simply revealing who the Batman was to the reader, but I find it funny regardless to imagine that this 6-page comic tried to tell an extremely condensed version of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Also, this drawing of the Batman here is extremely similar to the opening shot of him in the film serial from 1943. If that was intentional, I have to tip my hat to the filmmakers here for having this little allusion to the comics. Great, there is now officially one thing I like about this film serial. On to the next one. Detective Comics number 28. The Batman swings into action, stopping a group of wannabe jewel thieves right after their latest heist. Curiously, he makes it seem like he was part of the gang to the police that arrive on the scene. Though before the cops can arrest him, he jumps off the building to his death. Nah, I'm just kidding, he swings down to a lower rooftop. Okay, something I want to mention right away, the Batman isn't wearing gloves in this one. He was in the last comic, purple gloves that really didn't go with his outfit at all, but hey, that's still better than leaving fingerprints everywhere. Anyway, the next day the newspapers incorrectly label the Batman as being the leader of the gang. Undoubtedly another sensationalist article written by that hack two-bit journalist Clark Kent for the Daily Star. However, this is exactly what the Caped Crusader wanted, for the thugs are lured into a false sense of security, believing that the police will be so focused on trying to catch the cowed vigilante that they'll easily be able to pull off their next heist. Little do they know that the Batman is listening to their plan through the window. And hey, he finally put his gloves back on! I was gonna ask how the Batman knew where the gang was gonna be, but at the start of the comic he does find out who the gang leader is, so it's not too much of a stretch for him to find out where he lives as well. So I'll let it slide. Granted, he still got very lucky that they decided to discuss their plans right by the very window that he just happened to be hanging in front of. How long was he supposedly waiting for? Anyway, later that night, he gets the drop on them as they're looting an apartment complex. And why did you take the gloves back off? Do you just like damaging your knuckles? Are you trying to leave as many fingerprints as possible? After dealing with the thugs, he speeds off to face the gang leader. After a small tussle, he has the man write out a confession, and then dumps him in front of the police headquarters for Commissioner Gordon to deal with him from there. Detective Comics number 29. The Batman Meets Dr. Death by Bob Kane. Took him 3 months, but the man finally found the correct abbreviation for Robert. You think Bill Finger fixed that for him too? A criminal mastermind, Dr. Carl Helfern, is worried that the Batman will try to put a stop to his evil experiments. One thing to note right off the bat, this is the first comic that drops the hyphen in Batman, making it just one word now. You think Bill Finger fixed that for Bob Kane too? Granted, it's still Batman in the title panel, though only Batman on the cover. Man, you think Detective Comics would be a bit better with their branding. Anyway, Helfrin decides to put a stop to the Batman before he has the chance to interfere with his work. He runs an ad in the newspaper, telling the Batman that there's a letter for him at the post office under the name John Jones. Bruce Wayne goes to collect the letter, opening it up to read that someone is going to be killed at 10 p.m. inside of an apartment complex. The note challenging the Batman to try and stop the murder. Okay, so you took out an ad calling out the Batman directly, telling him to use a false name to collect the letter, and then Bruce Wayne uses said false name to collect said letter. How did the postal worker not immediately go, "Wait, you're Batman? Bruce Wayne is Batman?" Okay, to be fair, that's assuming that the clerk read the paper and that he would even recognize Bruce Wayne in the first place, but then again, why even take that risk? Why not just collect the letter in full costume? Also, I don't care how quickly Bruce went to the post office after reading the paper, but there is absolutely no way someone else would not have collected that letter already. Some random Joe Schmo would have walked up, said they were John Jones, and then taken the letter just for a laugh. And even if that didn't happen, the police almost certainly would have confiscated the letter by now, with it addressed to the Batman and described as being of vital importance. Well, seeing how this is the one universe in the multiverse where Bruce Wayne is able to collect the letter without his secret identity being discovered, he suits up, this time putting on his gloves even though he's still not wearing them on the cover art for some reason, and speeds off to try and stop the murder. He heads over to the apartment complex, only to discover that it was a trap all along, because of course it was. Thankfully, the Batman is quick to take down the thugs, though questionable-looking henchman catches him by surprise and fires a round into his shoulder. The Batman tosses a gas pellet at the shooter as he smashes a nearby window and jumps to safety. He heads over to a doctor to deal with the bullet wound. Later, he spots his would-be assassin and follows him back to the headquarters of Dr. Helfrin, or rather, Dr. Death. The Cape Crusader breaks into the Madman's laboratory. A small tussle breaks out between the two. At one point, a batch of chemicals falls right to the floor and starts a fire that soon engulfs the entire lab. The Batman escapes to the outside, while the Doctor laughs maniacally as he's engulfed in flames inside of the burning building. Detective Comics number 30. Bruce Wayne quickly finds out that his quote-unquote sworn enemy Dr. Death has survived the lab fire and has committed another queer murder. His victim killed because he had some diamonds that the Doctor wished to get his hands on. Now, how did Dr. Death know that this man had a small fortune in diamonds hidden away? Great question. The Batman, upon hearing this, breaks into the dead man's house after dark to secure the diamonds before the Doctor has a chance to steal them. Now, how did he know they would be in a hidden wall safe? Great question. Holy wild shot in the dark, Batman! Anyway, he discovers the diamonds right around the time Dr. Death's questionable lackey breaks into the house as well. Batman knocks the guy out of the window with one swift punch, and then tosses the bag of diamonds down to him. The henchman, confused about what happened but happy that he got the diamonds regardless, heads back over to the Doctor's headquarters, unaware of the fact that the Cape Crusader is following his every move. The Batman watches as the man hands off the stolen goods to a pawnbroker, and later, when the lackey walks into a boarding house, the Cape Crusader breaks into the building via the skylight, knocking the henchman out via a glass vial, and then searching through his room for some clues. However, he takes too long, giving the criminal enough time to wake back up. Escaping through the window, the Batman is quick to— "Oh my lord!" Batman just killed him outright. This isn't some accidental thing like with Stryker falling to the acid in the first comic. Bruce Wayne just broke this guy's neck. Now I see where Michael Keaton got it from. Anyway, after permanently relieving this man of a stiff neck, he heads over to the pawnbroker from earlier, questioning the man about where Dr. Death is, only to quickly discover that the man is none other than the evil Doctor himself, wearing a mask, disfigured by the fire at the end of the last comic. Batman exits the scene as the police arrive, leaving the madman in the hands of the law, presumably not having enough time to kill him himself. Detective Comics number 31. The story opens with Batman prowling around on a New York night. That was a bit of a surprise to read, let me tell ya. He finds a man being attacked by a woman. He saves the man by pulling him up to the top of a telephone pole, and then goes down to deal with the attacker, only to discover that the woman in question is none other than his fiancée, Julie Madison. Reading that was... well, it was a bigger surprise than the New York thing, let me tell you that much. Batman quickly discovers that Julie is under hypnosis, being controlled by some powerful foe, which was why she was attacking the other man in the first place. The Caped Crusader breaks her out from under the spell and drives her back home. The next day, Bruce and Julie head over to the doctor to deal with her hypnosis, only for the doctor to prescribe Julie an ocean voyage to Paris. Hey, that's just how doctoring went back in the late 30s. I'm surprised he didn't write her down for some heroin too while he was at it. Okay, to be fair, the doctor is also under hypnosis himself, which is why he makes the suggestion in the first place. And in the next few panels, we get a double whammy of introductions. The Batplane, or rather the Bat Gyro as it's called here, and the Batarang both make their debut in two back-to-back panels, alongside the naming convention of putting Bat in front of all of his wonderful toys. Yeah, the Batplane predated the Batmobile by quite a while. The Batmobile wouldn't get introduced until Batman number 5 in 1941. Okay, if you Google Batmobile's first appearance, it'll tell you that the debut Batman comic includes the Batmobile, but it's wrong. My brother in Christ, that is just a car. A normal sedan does not a Batmobile make. The Batmobile flashes through the streets with bullet speed. Stop lying to yourself, buddy. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah. The Batman uses his Bat Gyro to fly over New York, scaring the bejesus out of the people below, which was actually a little funny to read, not gonna lie. He lands on the ship that Julie is sailing on, only to come face to face with the one that had hypnotized her in the first place, the red-clad monk. So, y'all see it too, right? Well, he is the villain, so I guess it checks out. The monk nearly hypnotizes the Batman with a sinister glance. The Caped Crusader, fighting against the supernatural power of the red-clad fiend, uses what's left of his free will to escape the ship, following the cruise liner from a safe distance in his Bat Gyro, regrettably allowing Julie to get captured by the monk. Once in Paris, the Batman is quick to look high and low for his fiancée. After searching for an unspecified amount of time, the Batman finally finds Julie sleeping. He jumps into the window to rescue her, only for a massive ape to attack him once inside. The Batman dodges the lumbering animal, only to fall right into a trap laid out by the monk, tied up in a net being lowered into a pit filled with venomous snakes. He flings his Batarang into a light fixture above him, and uses the falling glass to cut his way out of the net, running towards the monk, only to be trapped again as a cage suddenly drops down around him. The ape from earlier is lowered inside with him, the scale of the gorilla changing drastically in between pages. The Batman breaks free from the cage, scaling up the rope that the gorilla was lowered down with. He escapes to the outside, climbing into his Bat Gyro and immediately taking off towards a speeding car leaving the building. Using one of his gas pellets, he makes the driver crash into a nearby tree and saves Julie from the wreck. Thank God that didn't kill her. Cars back then had all the safety features of a pack of cigarettes. You got very lucky that you didn't just accidentally fillet your fiancé, Bruce. Anyway, the Batman takes his knocked out partner back to the Batplane. Yeah, now it's just called the Batplane. It changed mid-story. You think Bill Finger fixed that for him too? Taking off to the sky, he flies towards Hungary, the homeland of the monk. The comic ending on the first ever to be continued in the Batman's history. Will the Batman find the suspiciously robed monk? Will he discover the cure for the spell his fiancée has fallen under? How long will it be until Julie Madison is never mentioned again? Find the answer to all these questions and more in Detective Comics number 32. The Batman takes down a horse-drawn carriage with another one of his gas pellets. Expecting to find the monk inside, he's surprised to see a woman instead. Now, why did the Batman follow this one carriage specifically? What made him think the monk would be inside? Never explained. The last comic ends with him flying to Hungary, and this one starts off with him chasing down this stagecoach. If I had to guess, he spotted her red dress from the outside and thought it was the monk's robe and was just willing to take a risk on it. Finding it strange that the woman would be traveling by herself late at night, he takes her back to his hotel, putting her in the same room as his fiancée. Cause when you're a vigilante, you can arrest whoever you want with as little evidence as possible. My name is Della. I seem to have been kidnapped by your friend here. That is correct, ma'am. However, the Batman is proven correct, because of course he is, when Dalla walks out of the room late at night and smashes him on the back of the head with what I can only assume to be an Academy Award. Am I really gonna make a Will Smith slapping Chris Rock joke so many years after it happened? Of course I am! Oh, wow! The stunned Batman staggers over to Julie's room to check on her and discovers vampire bite marks on her neck. Dela is a vampire. Okay. You know, it's a shame Batman didn't have Alfred with him at this point in the comics. I've heard he's had experience fighting vampires. Batman jumps into action, stopping Dela outside. Dela begs before the Batman, saying that she'll show him where the monk is if he promises to kill him for her. The two soon depart, flying over the countryside, only for the Batplane to be caught in a massive net. Dela having led the Batman right into the monk's trap. Once on the ground, the monk uses his hypnotic powers to paralyze the Batman, and calls forth Julie to come to the castle as well. The monk taunting Bruce, saying that his fiancée will be turned into a werewolf. Before the Batman's very eyes, the monk transforms into a wolf, and then howls to attract other wolves so that the Caped Crusader will be mauled to death. The monk pushes the Caped Crusader into the wolf's den. The Batman, finally breaking free from the monk's hypnosis, tosses gas pellets at the wolves to hold them back as he tries to think of a way to escape. Using his wits, he ties his batarang to the end of one of his silk robes, and then lassos himself out from the dangerous pit. Quick to get his revenge, the Batman melts a silver statue with a candlestick. I was about to call BS on this part, but apparently it's entirely possible to melt silver with a candle. So, shows you what I know. He smelts the silver into 2 bullets, for only a silver bullet may kill a vampire.
You're a little confused, but he got the spirit.
Batman loads the silver bullets into a pistol, which I guess he just had on him this entire time, and then goes to find the location of the sleeping vampires. He shoots them down while they sleep the day away in their coffins, breaking the spell and freeing Julie from the monk's influence. With the threat now gone, the two are now free to live happily ever after. She is never seen again. Finis. Okay, so, a few things here. First off, are these two vampires or are they werewolves? I know the lore behind the two creatures has always been a little loosey-goosey, and Dracula himself was able to transform into a wolf in his novel. But the line, only a silver bullet may kill a vampire, is really bugging me. Like, just change vampire to werewolf and it'd be okay, but nope. Also, what was the monk's plan here? Was his goal this entire time to transform Julie into a werewolf and have her live with him in Hungary? Why? She lived in New York. How were you even aware of her existence? This isn't like in Dracula where the Count grew infatuated with Mina from a picture that Jonathan Harker carried on him. There is literally no way you could have found out who Julie was before this plan was set into motion. Speaking of Dracula, this two-parter definitely took some inspiration from Bram Stoker's novel. The monk's hypnotic power making people do things against their will? Check. The heroes traveling from their home in the big city to a faraway country to take down the evil threat? Check. Killing said evil threat, which releases your loved one from under its spell? Check. And of course the fact that, you know, both are vampires? kinda. And stepping aside from all of that, let's jump back to Detective Comics number 31 for a second. This artwork here is pretty iconic. I'm sure you've seen it around before. It's used on the cover for the Golden Age of Detective Comics. The Golden Age of Detective Comics comics. The very volume I'm reading from right now has cover art that's an obvious homage to this very issue. And I find it a little funny because all of the past times I've seen this, I've always assumed that the castle here was like a super early version of Wayne Manor. So finding out that it was the castle of a villain that nobody remembers was honestly kind of surprising. To be fair though, most versions of this art I've seen in the past have cut out the Klansman in the bottom left corner, so there's that. And one last thing. Remember way back at the start of Detective Comics number 31 where the Batman saved the man from the possessed Julie by pulling him up to the top of a telephone pole? Yeah, he never got him back down, so I like to think that he's still stuck there to this very day. Detective Comics number 33. The start of this comic takes us back in time and shows us the very first depiction of Bruce's parents being shot down in a dark alley. The first of many depictions of his parents being killed. At the end of the flashback, Bruce is struggling to decide what his superhero persona should be, trying to think of something that would strike fear into every criminal he comes across. And then, almost as if by providence, a bat flies in through the window. Deciding right then and there to adopt the look of the winged creature, he becomes the dreaded Batman. Wait a minute. Jumping back to present day, a large red blimp shoots down red lasers that tear down entire buildings, reducing downtown Manhattan to rubble. A message calls out from the blimp, telling people to surrender to the sacred horde, or face their wrath. Bruce Wayne helps people in the rubble, and it's on this day that he vows to kill Superman. Wait. Wrong story. After helping with rescue work, Bruce goes back to his manor to look through some secret files he has in a hidden laboratory. He reads up on a professor, Karl Kruger, a man who was recently released from a mental asylum, although, more importantly, had also started work on a certain type of death ray. Bruce, dressed as the Batman, decides to pay Kruger a visit. Spying through the professor's window, he finds the man taking charge of a whole gang of evildoers. The group discussing their plans for further destruction. Karl Kruger modeling himself after Napoleon Bonaparte, fantasizing about being ruler of the world. Okay, so I think there is an actual objective mistake here. Batman is on the ground and he uses his lasso to reach the top of the house so that he can spy on the rest through the window. And as he's looking, he says to himself, thinks he's Napoleon. Except, I just lied to you. He doesn't say that here, he says that while he's still on the ground and can't see inside. Like, I'm not wrong, am I? This speech bubble was supposed to go here, right? Anyway, the Batman breaks inside, attempting to stop the wannabe dictator before he can cause any more destruction. However, Karl's henchmen knock him out and restrain him with ropes. Karl sets off a bomb, intending on the Caped Crusader to be killed in the blast. However, the Batman is able to free himself from the ropes and escapes the house just in the nick of time. The next day, the Batman follows one of Karl's henchmen to his secret base. The Batman breaks inside, destroying some of the death ray machines and attempting to destroy the blimp with an axe. I don't know why he wouldn't use his gun from earlier, but to each his own. However, before he's able to make a swing at it, Kruger shoots him from behind, knocking him down to the floor. Karl tells a nearby guard to watch the Batman so that he can get one of the remaining death ray machines. The wannabe dictator returns and destroys the Batman, only for it to be revealed that Bruce had swapped places with the guard in the short window of time that Karl was getting the death ray machine. Is this where Halloween Resurrection got the idea from? Also, you just gotta love the logic here. I just shot Batman with the pistol I am holding in my hand. I could just shoot him again with the very same pistol, or I could tell my nearby guard to shoot him with his rifle, but nah, I'll waste time and drag a bulky spotlight over to do the job instead. That is some real James Bond level stuff right there. Which is weird to say because this predates the Bond films by over 20 years and the Bond books by over 10 years, but I digress. After escaping, it's revealed that Bruce survived because of a bulletproof vest he was wearing. In addition to his outfit, I can assume was added sometime after issue 29. Back in his laboratory, he creates a chemical that will make his Batplane immune to the blimp's death ray. How does he know how to do this, you may ask? The next day, he takes to the sky, crashing his Batplane into the blimp to take it down, though not before the evil professor makes a getaway in a much smaller fighter plane. The Batman, now falling through the air in a parachute, uses his lasso to reach Karl Kruger. Once on the wing of the professor's plane, he tosses one of his gas pellets at the wannabe dictator, making him crash down into the waters below, permanently ending his reign of terror. Detective Comics number 34. This comic starts right off with a note that shows it was published out of order. The opening line tells the reader that the Batman had sent Julie back home after rescuing her from the sinister monk. So yeah, these two issues got swapped for whatever reason. Just keep in mind that the plot of this story takes place entirely in France, and Bruce, like any rational person, is trying to get out of the country. Though while leaving his hotel room, he runs across a man with no face. That's mighty queer. A man without a face. That is an understatement. Did you just get lazy? Did you just not want to bother with drawing a face for this guy? Kane! Anyway, later in the day, Bruce also happens to run into a woman who's having threats on her life by some unseen foe. The faceless man walks back onto the scene, revealing himself as the woman's brother. He explains what's going on, telling Bruce that the two are being hunted down by Mr. Dorothy?
Duke d'Ortier.
In the past, it was he who had burned off the man's face, presumably being very surprised that it didn't just kill him outright. Seriously though, how do you breathe? Bruce, after hearing their plight, leaves the hotel room only for the Batman to return in his place. The two frightened people, not able to put two and two together, tell the Cape Crusader how to reach
Duke d'Ortier.
Following the faceless man's instructions, the Batman quickly heads out at You have gotta be kidding me! Kane! Anyway, the Batman quickly enters the sewers to get after
Duke d'Ortier.
He's soon captured by the mad Frenchman, however, and is tied to a massive grain wheel, spinning round and round rapidly to be killed by centrifugal force. Using his strength, the Batman breaks free from his restraints and jumps forward into a ceiling door into a garden filled with flowers that have human faces. What in God's name? The Frenchman calls forth his henchmen to capture the two from earlier. The Batman, following the advice of one of the flowers, I can't believe I just said that, finds the room's exit, walking into the wheel room once again to see the faceless man spinning to his death, screaming out for help. How? Harlan Ellison went over this already. You have no mouth. You should not be able to scream. Anyway, Batman saves the impossible man from sure death and then takes to the skies to follow after
Duke d'Ortier,
who's trying to make an escape with the woman from earlier. Batman jumps down to the car and, with the help of the restrained woman, makes the man drive right off the cliffside, plummeting to his death. The Batman returns the woman to her faceless brother, telling them au revoir as he heads off on his next mission. This was easily the weirdest one yet. Yeah, the vampire storyline was a little odd, but at least it made sense in the context of the supernatural. Here though, you have a faceless man and face full of flowers like it's just your average Tuesday. Is this just the powers that French people have? I still don't know what the flowers were about. I get that they're supposed to be victims of the Frenchmen, but how in God's green graces did he supposedly do this? Yeah, the faceless thing is stupid, but at least the comic tried to give an explanation for it. The flowers appear right out of the blue and leave just as quickly. They're not even important to the story. Sure, they tell Batman where the exit is, but I think he could have found that without them. Does this qualify as a big-lipped alligator moment? Detective Comics number 35. This was the first Batman comic published in the 1940s, and on the cover we have what's clearly supposed to be the
Duke d'Ortier,
even though he's not in this issue. How strange. Anyway, the comic itself immediately starts out with an illustration of Batman with a gun. It's unrelated to the rest of the story, but I love it. I would unironically hang this on my wall if it were a poster. Diving into the plot itself, an explorer named Sheldon Lennox sells a ruby Hindu statue to a private collector, only for said collector to receive a death threat just a few days later. The Hindus who own the statue in the first place telling him to give it back or else. The police are called to action, millionaire socialite Bruce Wayne coming along as well. Why not? Hindu idol worshippers, death notes. They head off to the streets, only to see that the Hindus have already kidnapped Sheldon Lennox, the one that had taken their statue in the first place. The police chase after them, only to watch in horror as the Hindus kill the explorer and toss his body into the river as they ride off into the night. The murder headlines newspapers the following day. The articles also making mention of the ruby statue at the center of the whole affair, arousing the interest of some neighborhood thugs. The Batman, sensing that something is about to happen, suits up and heads over to the private collector's estate in the middle of the night, only to find a group of gangsters already robbing the place. He makes quick work of the wannabe thieves, though right when everything seems to be going his way, a massive group of Hindus break into the scene and momentarily overpower the Caped Crusader. They steal back the ruby statue and flee right before the cops arrive. The Batman quickly escapes from the police as well, and chases down after the Hindu's car in his souped-up sedan, following them all the way to a pawn shop in the middle of Chinatown. Inside, he meets the owner, an Oriental man, the comic's words not mine, named Sin Fang. Fang plays dumb, saying that he has no idea that the statue was stolen and will happily return it to the private collector. Following Sin Fang to the back of the building, the Batman overcomes near-fatal obstacles that the broker throws his way, overpowering sword-wielding Madman and using one of his glass vials to clear out poisonous gas before it has a chance to kill him. It's actually kind of funny because Fang acts like both moments were accidents, and Batman goes along with what he says. Not because he believes him, obviously, but because he's trying to get to the bottom of the case and kinda needs to follow Kane to see where the statue is. Hey man, I just got through two very obvious death traps back there. Seriously, you should try to be more subtle, but I'm sure they were just accidents on your part, so still gonna let me see that ruby statue? Right. In the third room, a trapdoor opens up beneath the Caped Crusader's feet. Using his cat-like reflexes, he's able to catch a drainage pipe on the way down, and heave himself back up to safety. He then sneaks into Sin Fang's room just as the man is taking off a disguise, revealing himself to be Sheldon Lennox the entire time. Lennox setting up the whole ruse to steal the ruby statue for a big payday. Wait, but the thing started out in your possession. You sold it to the private collector in the first place. You could have just not done that. Why did you do any of this? And oh my lord, he has a gun! Batman, using some delicious irony, picks up the ruby statue and chucks it at Sheldon's head, which knocks him out of the window and sends him falling down to a gruesome death on the pavement several stories below, undoubtedly giving Bruce Wayne violent flashbacks of his parents' killing. Detective Comics number 36. The Batman, perched on a rooftop during his nightly rounds, watches as a man is shot down in the middle of the street. Robert Kane showing some real restraint by not reusing this drawing for a fourth time. The Caped Crusader springs into action, comforting the dying man in his final moments as he says the words, "Fog, fog, strange, fog, strange." The Caped Crusader takes the notebook from the man's pocket, and then escapes as the police arrive to the scene. Later that night, Bruce Wayne comes to the realization that the dying man was trying to say the name of Professor Hugo Strange. Yep, this comic marks the first ever appearance of the mad scientist himself, a man who would later discover Batman's secret identity, and it's almost comical how little his look has changed over time. Hey, whether you like it or not, this is peak character design. Okay, getting back to the comic, Bruce reads through the notebook that he had stolen from the murder scene earlier, and discovers that the killed man was a member of the FBI, and also finds a list of banks written down. Later in the evening, a dense fog washes over the entire town, which remains for several nights in a row. During this time, thugs robbed several banks in the area, slipping into the night without a trace thanks to the dense fog. Bruce, listening to the news on his radio, notices that the banks were robbed in the same order as the list on the FBI's notebook. With this in mind, he decides to suit up and wait for the thugs at their next hit point. Taking them by surprise, he's able to overpower all of the criminals. I just want to take a moment to really appreciate this panel. I love it. It pops off the page in a way that's truly dynamic. Satisfied with his work, the Caped Crusader leaves the knocked out thugs to the police. The following night, he heads over to the gang's next hit point, only to walk right into a trap laid out for him by the evil professor. A fight breaks out, the Caped Crusader doing his best to take down as many men as possible, only for a blow to the back of the head to knock him out cold. He's then restrained and taken to Hugo Strange. The mad scientist hangs the Batman up and starts whipping him with a lash. The Batman, using all of his might, breaks free from the rope binding his hands and takes down the professor with a few hearty blows. After which, he turns off the machine that had coated the city in the dense fog, temporarily putting a stop to Hugo Strange's reign of terror. Detective Comics number 37. Riding down a lone dirt road in a car that's getting closer to the Batmobile but still not quite there yet, Batman hears a blood-curdling scream coming from a nearby house. Stopping to investigate, he enters the dwelling to find a group of gangsters torturing a poor defenseless man. The Batman swings into action, beating up the thugs and freeing their victim, only for the tortured man, named Joey, to knock the Batman out with a blow to the back of the head, and gun down the rest inside of the house, only sparing the Batman's life because he had saved his. Later, the Batman wakes up to the sea of dead men around him. Holy Christ! That's one heck of a cold opening. Using his detective skills, he's able to track down Joey to a grocery store in a deserted part of town. Sneaking in later as the Batman, he infiltrates a gang meeting that Joey is right smack dab in the middle of. The head of the gang being a man named Ellis Turg. The Caped Crusader turns off the lights and beats up the thugs in the dark, but not without calling Joey out by name first. Later, with the lights back on, the remaining men kill Joey on the spot, believing that he had told the Batman where their secret headquarters were, after which they discuss their evil plan, sure of the fact that the Caped Crusader is already trying to put a stop to their scheme. They rush out of the room, leaving Joey to die alone, only for it to be revealed that Batman actually hadn't left the room and had listened to the thugs' every word. The Caped Crusader comforts Joey in his final moments. With his final breath, he tells Batman what the gangsters have planned. They're going to blow up a ship transporting foreign goods, hoping to cause an all-out war. Joey had tried to put a stop to them himself, which was why he was being tortured in the first place. Batman assures him that he'll put a stop to their plans, and with that, Joey dies in Bruce's arms. So, can we just take a step back for a minute to acknowledge the fact that Batman just kinda killed this man? Why would you call him out by name in the first place? Either you're incredibly dumb, or you hope that they would turn on him, which is really messed up. You didn't have to get this guy killed to find out the next part of their evil plan. This has gotta be one of the most morally gray things I've ever seen the Batman do. And I kinda like it. I'm so used to Batman being depicted as an outright hero that seeing him act more as an anti-hero is oddly interesting, even if it is pretty out of character for him even in this era of the comics. Getting back to the plot, later that night, the Batman jumps into action, and after a brief swim with the fishes, he successfully foils the wannabe saboteur's plans, steering a boat full of explosives out of the way of a massive cargo ship mere seconds before the two vessels would have crashed into each other. After the close shave, the Batman decides to pay a visit to the mastermind behind the whole ordeal. Something new? Butlers carrying guns. Oh, just you wait, buddy. After dealing with the help, he goes to deal with Turd. After a small tussle, the Cape Crusader socks the man in the jaw, which makes him fall backwards into a sword, the blade stabbing him in the back of the neck. What's this comic's deal? Was Robert Kane just in a mood when he wrote? Was Robert Kane just in a mood when he told his ghostwriters what to do for this comic? Assuming he even had that much involvement with the series at this point. Anyway, the preview on the final panel promises that the next comic will feature the Cape Crusader going against a herd of giants in Metropolis. I suppose now would be a good time to tell you that Gotham doesn't get name dropped until Batman number 4. Names aside though, I'm hyped to read about some huge, terrifying man monsters in Detective Comics number 38. Now, this is a big one for obvious reasons. This comic right here introduces the first ever rendition of the DC logo that we all know and know today. DC Comics, Detective Comics Comics, got their naming convention from ATM machine and pin number. Okay, time to be serious. This issue is a big deal because it features the debut of Batman's trusted sidekick, Robin, the Boy Wonder. And I fully admit, it was not until I read this little blip here that compares him to Robin Hood that I realized that the Boy Wonder was partially inspired by the medieval vigilante. Kinda obvious now that I think about it. Anyway, let's dig right into this young hero's debut story. This comic starts out with a performance by the Flying Graysons, a trapeze act composed of a father, mother, and son trio. During their performance, some gang members visit the owner of the circus, telling him that he better pay protection money to ensure that no accidents will occur. The circus owner, refusing to give in to their demands, tells the criminals to scram. The next night, however, a terrible accident does occur. During a particularly dangerous trapeze act, the rope holding up the Graysons gives way, leading them to plummet to their death. Dick Grayson, the youngest member of the family, watches in horror as his parents die right in front of him. He soon finds out that the gangsters were the ones behind his family's death, and he starts to head over to the police, but he's stopped by the Cape Crusader himself. Batman warns the boy, telling him that the gang leader, Boss Zuko, runs the town, and if he goes to the police, he would be killed himself. Moved by Dick's determination for vengeance, and seeing so much of himself in the boy due to their parents' similar fates, the Batman decides to take the young Grayson in as his ward, coaching him to be a crime fighter just like himself. After months of strenuous work, Dick Grayson is transformed into Robin, the Boy Wonder. Once training is complete, the two return to Boss Zuko's territory, Dick Grayson picking up the disguise of a newsboy to infiltrate the town. I want to mention that this is also something that Dick does pretty early on in the Batman film serial that I mentioned sometime earlier. If that was intentional, I find it a pretty nice nod to the character's debut comic. Crap, there's now two things I like about this serial. I better get back to the story. Dick Grayson is soon accosted by two older kids, telling him that he better pay them protection money or they'll beat him up. After giving them the dough, he follows them to their boss's headquarters, arriving just in time to hear Zuko, in a fit of rage, demand that his people take in even more money from the poor citizens of the town. The next night, as the gang members go around to collect the protection money, Batman swoops in to stop every single one of the pitiful thugs, after which he trashes a casino run by the boss and destroys all of Zuko's slot machines in the town for good measure. He successfully lures the big boss himself into a construction site. Once there, Robin, the Boy Wonder, takes out the thugs one by one, kicking, tossing, and slingshotting them into submission. This part is genuinely very cathartic to read. I'm so used to other depictions of the story where Batman persuades Dick to not go after his parents' killers because revenge is wrong or whatever. So seeing Robin straight up kick some of the thugs off of the girders entirely is honestly pretty great. And it's also pretty neat seeing how the two-parter, Robin's Reckoning, which was the animated series take on the story, starts off with the dynamic duo fighting thugs on a construction site, a nice little nod to the original comic. In the end, Batman and Robin capture Boss Zuko and send him to prison to undoubtedly rot away in a dank cell for the rest of his miserable life. Or for him to be let out after 7 years. only to be immediately shot down by a rival gang leader, whichever comes first, I guess. In the last two panels, Bruce asks Dick if he wants to go back to living a normal life, now that his parents' killer is behind bars. But the young boy says no, wishing to fight alongside the Cape Crusader instead, in his never-ending battle against crime. This comic was easily my favorite one so far. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a good revenge story, and this was a good, satisfying revenge story. I really like how Bruce helps Dick in avenging his parents' killing, granting the boy the justice that he never got for his own parents' death. Overall, this one was pretty great. One problem with it though. It had nothing to do with giants. Batman number 1. Well, here it is. After appearing in Detective Comics for 11 consecutive issues, the Cape Crusader would finally get his own line of comic books to himself. Batman number 1, consisting of 4 action-packed stories starring the dynamic duo fighting criminals of all shapes and sizes. Though before we dive into the meat of the comic, let's change to something more appropriate. Now, kinda obviously, this is not an original copy of Batman number 1. If it was, I wouldn't be using a Blue Yeti microphone. No, this is a reprint, an exact replica of the original release with a few minor changes. It has no real value, but it's a neat enough novelty for what it's worth, and it makes this part of the video slightly more interesting. So, let's stop wasting time and dig right into the issue. The comic actually starts out with a small prologue telling the legend of the Batman, which in actuality is just a reprint of the same prologue from Detective Comics number 33, with color changes for some reason. It makes sense to clue people into who the character is at the start of his first solo comic, and while it does feel a little lazy to reuse the same art, I do understand why they didn't want to redraw a scene that they had done less than a year earlier. Although this is an extremely Bob Kane thing to do. I'm sorry, Robert Kane. The color change, however, is baffling to me. It kinda reminds me how modern reprints of The Killing Joke completely changed the color palette of that comic as well. And speaking of The Killing Joke... Yep. The first storyline in Batman number 1 features the introduction of the Cape Crusader's most infamous villain, the Joker. Now, let's dive into the plot surrounding the crazed Prince of Crime's debut appearance. Someone hijacks the radio broadcast. The man, calling himself the Joker, announces that he'll kill Henry Cloward at midnight and steal his prized diamond. Most people brush it off as a hoax, comparing it to the infamous War of the Worlds radio incident. I actually find it pretty amusing that this over 80-year-old comic makes a topical reference that most people would probably still get today. Henry Cloward, fearing for his life, surrounds himself with police for protection. Midnight arrives and, just like the Joker promised, death comes with it. Without warning, Cloward dies almost instantly, a ghoulish smile ripping across his mouth soon after his final breath. The police immediately search for the diamond, quickly finding out that the Joker had managed to steal that too. At his base, the Joker applauds himself for how he was able to pull off the crime. He had used the small-acting poison to kill Cloward, and had stolen the diamond in advance, the crime already being committed before he had even made the radio announcement. The next night, a similar murder is dealt out by the Prince of Crime. It doesn't take long for the Joker's actions to gather the attention of other members of the criminal underworld, some of the other gangsters getting annoyed by the fact that the Joker is stepping in on their territory, so they lay a trap out for him, a trap that the Joker walks right into. However, unknown to any of the criminals, Batman is on the scene as well, and he quickly makes his presence known as he jumps down the stairwell and starts beating up the thugs one by one. The Joker shoots down the main gangster as he makes his escape. The Batman chases after the Prince of Crime, standing on the running board of his speeding car as the vehicle flies off the side of the bridge. And, with a swift punch and a kick, the Joker knocks Batman into the water below. And it's in this panel right here that Batman is first referred to as the Dark Knight. It seems I've at last met a foe that can give me a good fight. However, I'm not licked. Not quite. Oh, Batman's a poet and he didn't even know that about himself until right now. Another ghoulish death is soon dealt by the Joker. This time, the Clown Prince of Crime disguises himself as a police chief so that he can watch the man as he dies. The Joker leaving the house, only to be spotted by Robin, who follows the clown all the way back to his place. The Boy Wonder goes inside to investigate, only to be knocked out once inside. The Joker ties the boy down to a chair and starts to inject him with the same poison that he had used on all of his other previous victims. Though, right before he can make the injection, Batman breaks in through the window to stop him. Oh, thank God. Didn't want death in the family. The Caped Crusader, knowing where Robin was because he had followed his glow-in-the-dark footprints. The duo having coated the bottom of their shoes in a special paint that glows underneath an infrared ray. Okay, so it's a little stupid, and this level of comic book logic doesn't really fit into the rest of the serious story that the plot is telling. But this is the same series that had flowers with faces, so what am I even complaining about? Anyway, the Batman socks the Joker in the jaw, knocking him into a table loaded with chemicals, accidentally starting a fire in the house, giving the Dark Knight a strange feeling of deja vu. Batman quickly gets the tied-up Robin out of the burning house as the Joker escapes during the confusion. However, the Clown Prince of Crime doesn't escape the dynamic duo for long. After a small tussle, the two finally apprehend the killer clown, sending him off to prison, for him to rot away in his jail cell, never to be seen again. I find it pretty neat how the Joker's knack for announcing his crimes before he commits it is something that originated in his debut story. I also got a kick out of the fact that the Joker's method for killing people is almost the same exact method he used in the Burton film. Heck, his overall look and the way he disguises himself are also pretty reminiscent of that film as well. It's pretty neat reading this comic after watching the '89 film for so many years. Seeing for the first time how the movie incorporated elements of the Joker's debut story. But getting back to the comic itself, let's move on to the next story. The plot starts right away with Hugo Strange escaping prison and breaking some patients out of a metropolis insane asylum. 1 month later, a huge lumbering giant attacks people on a crowded street in Lower Manhattan. Which is it? The giant comes back to attack the following night, only for the Batman to be watching over in the sky this time. The Dark Knight follows the man monster all the way back to Hugo's secret headquarters. He heads inside for clues, only to step right into a trap. Professor Strange, delighted to see the helpless Caped Crusader, gleefully tells him his plans. He had used a special growth hormone to enlarge all of the patients he had broken out of the insane asylum, using them as a distraction so that he's free to rob banks in other parts of town. Hugo Strange injects the Caped Crusader with the same growth hormone, and then locks him up in a jail cell as he starts preparations to send out more of his man-killing giants once again. The Batman, making use of some special chemicals he had hidden away in the heels of his boots, creates a small explosion that blast opens the bars of his cell. Once free, he socks the professor in the jaw, knocking him out of the window and down into the turbulent waters below. The Batman makes quick work of the giant still inside of the house, turning the simple-minded beings against each other as he works up an antidote for the growth hormone. He injects the cure into his arm with only a minute to spare before he would have been turned into one of the lumbering giants himself. Taken to the skies, the Batman tracks down the 2 trucks that Hugo Strange had sent out already. Much as I hate to take a human life, when have you ever hated that? This is the first ever hint of Batman's famous no-killing rule, which is a little funny to read after he just punched a man into the ocean. Anyway, he guns down the truck, killing the drivers, and kills the giant by picking him up and letting him fall back down to his death. Are you sure you hate taking human lives? Cause remember, these man monsters are human after all. They're people that Hugo Strange gathered from an insane asylum and transformed into these lumbering beasts. It's honestly kinda bleak if you think about it. I have no doubt if the story was written today, more emphasis would be placed on the whole body horror aspect of it, and how these mentally unwell men were changed into giants against their will. but this was made back in 1940 when no one cared about that sort of thing. Anyway, the Batman tracks down the last truck, which is in the middle of the city. He guns it down like the other. The giant lumbering beast escapes the wreck and climbs up the Metropolis Empire State Building. I believe it's right next to the Metropolis Statue of Liberty. An homage to King Kong plays out as the giant thrashes his arms in the air, trying to knock down the Batplane, only for the Batman to assault him with a barrage of gas pellets. The man-monster, succumbing to the noxious gas, falls off the top of the building to his death, leaving the Batman to wonder if this will be the last he'll see of Hugo Strange. Probably not. Okay, so I have a little theory. A comic book theory! And I'm pretty sure that this story was supposed to be the one in Detective Comics number 38. Notice how Robin wasn't in this one at all, hinting to the fact that this was supposed to be before the Boy Wonder was to make his debut. Though, beyond that, you have the teaser at the end of issue 37, which is obviously hinting to this story. If I had to guess, they printed them out of order so that Robin would be introduced before Batman number 1. Which is fair, it's not a big deal or anything, but it's something I found worth noting regardless. On to the next story. The plot starts out with Dick Grayson working as a steward on a private yacht, having to find a new job after Bruce Wayne fired him for smoking all of his pipe tobacco. Okay, I'm kidding. In actuality, young Grayson is working undercover, looking for any suspicious characters that might be interested in stealing the priceless emerald necklace that Mrs. Travers is wearing. Later in the evening, Dick finds a note telling Travers to keep away from her room, signed by the cat. And, just a few minutes after reading the note, he finds out that Travers' necklace was stolen by the mysterious feline. Before anyone even has a chance to process what's happened, a group of wannabe pirates break onto the scene as well, demanding that the old lady hand over the necklace. Upon finding out that it's already been stolen, they settle on stealing everyone else's jewelry instead, though not without taking a few blows from Dick Grayson in the process. The young boy jumps into the waters below to escape a barrage of bullets, somehow managing to change into his Robin costume while underwater. Okay, that's pretty impressive, not gonna lie. The thugs head back to their smaller boat to depart from the scene, though they don't make it far before they're accosted by the dynamic duo. A fight breaks out, where Batman lets Robin take down the criminals all by himself. In the end, the Dark Knight breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly to the reader. Well, kids, there's your proof. Crooks are yellow without their guns. Don't go around admiring them. Rather do your best in fighting them and all of their kind. So I can admire the message, but maybe don't tell little kids to fight criminals because it's probably not going to end like this. You, stop right there! Anyway, back on the Yatchet, the dynamic duo return the stolen jewels to the people on board, and find the cat who stole the emerald necklace in the first place, ripping an old maid disguise off of one of the guests, revealing her to be a much younger lady, the beautiful femme fatale herself, the Catwoman. Okay, here she's not referred to as the Catwoman, just the Cat, nor is the name Selina Kyle mentioned, but it's the same character nonetheless. And I have no idea why she's called the Cat here. I get that she's a cat burglar, but she doesn't dress up as one here. Heck, she doesn't don a feline disguise until her third story at the tail end of Batman number 3. And let's just say, it's a prime example of why Bob Kane should never work alone. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that there's an episode of the Adam West show where the Catwoman also disguises herself as an old lady. Holy cat callback, Batman! Anyway, back to the story at hand, Batman captures the cat, though not without the woman trying to seduce him into letting her go.
You can't deny there's something between us.
You're right, and I'm afraid it's the law.
Later, as the dynamic duo take her back to shore, she jumps out of the boat to get away, Batman seemingly letting her go. In the final panel, the Dark Knight swoons over the cat's beautiful looks, though also reminding himself that he shouldn't get too carried away, seeing how he's still engaged to Julie and everything. Yeah, this is the first time Julie Madison is mentioned in over half a year's worth of comic books. Did you forget about her? 'Cause Lord knows I sure did. Alright, we've reached the end after... what I can only assume to be over an hour, but I honestly have no real way of knowing right now. And now we're at the last storyline we're gonna be going over in this video. This one featuring the grand return of the Joker. What? Yeah, Batman #1 is bookended with the Joker's first storyline and his second storyline. They didn't wait at all to see what the public's reaction to the character was gonna be. They knew they were cooking with this one. Okay, now that I've dated this video with Gen Z slang, let's dive right into the plot itself. The Joker breaks out of prison, pulling 2 false teeth out of the back of his mouth and using the chemicals inside to blow the wall of his jail cell to smithereens. The Joker goes out on yet another killing spree, that same ghoulish smile appearing on all of his victims' faces. He announces his plan to rob a museum, successfully taking out the police, only for the Batman to appear and try to stop his evil plan. A fight breaks out between the two, in which the Joker knocks the Dark Knight out with the broadside of an axe. The Prince of Crime then flees as more police arrive to the scene. The officers, seeing the unconscious Batman on the floor, try to remove his cowl to see who's behind the mask. Will the cowl be taken off? If the Batman is revealed as Bruce Wayne, his career as a nemesis of crime is finished. Is this the end of the mighty Batmans? I don't really get why Batman is plural there, but okay. I suppose this is the first ever cliffhanger in the Caped Crusaders history. Granted, not much of a cliffhanger because all you have to do is turn the page to see Batman escape, striking a uncomfortable looking pose while doing so. Actually, it's funny because of how the volume set is formatted, it's not even a page turn away, but a glance away. Obviously not the original comic's fault, but I find it funny nonetheless. Anyway, the Batman successfully escapes the police, and the Joker commits yet another murder later that night. Fed up with the clown's reign of terror, Commissioner Gordon, following the advice of his friend Bruce Wayne, sets up a trap for the Joker, running articles in the paper that talk of a valuable ruby in the hands of a private collector, hoping that the Joker will try to steal it. Okay, one thing I want to say here, it feels strangely out of character for Bruce to be suggesting a plan to trap the Joker. Bruce Wayne in this era of the comics intentionally acts as bored and as pompous as possible, so having him lay out a plan for the Commissioner feels wrong. Granted though, this is long before the Batman regularly dropped by the Commissioner's office, so this was the best way for them to have the not-so-caped Crusader lay out a trap for the Joker. But still, I can't help but feel that the Commissioner would have been a little taken aback by his socialite friend's sudden burst of critical thinking. Getting back to the plot, the clown Prince of Crime goes after the valuable ruby, walking right into the trap laid out for him. And escaping the police, the Joker walks right into the hands of Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. A small tussle breaks out, ending with the Joker accidentally stabbing himself right in the chest, dying with the same twisted smile on his face that he had left all of his victims with. Holy Christ! Though, of course, in the final panel, it's revealed that the crazy clown is still alive. One last thing I want to mention about this comic. On the back cover, there's a drawing of Batman and Robin, signed by them as well, which is admittedly a pretty nice touch. This artwork is admittedly pretty nice. It's arguably the best drawing of the dynamic duo we've gotten yet. Granted, I don't know why Batman's utility belt is blue, but that's besides the point. Though something I just have to mention is the fact that the comic encourages readers to cut out and frame the artwork. Now, I can't help but imagine the sheer number of Batman #1s out there that have the back cover cut out of them. But then again, the back cover alone goes for a ridiculous amount of money, so what do I know? I think one thing that struck me while I was reading through these issues was seeing just how quickly the comic improved as time went on. I'm sure you've noticed it too, how a lot of the early art is honestly pretty stiff, and the layout of the panels themselves is so generic that it makes the comic less visually interesting. But the art and layout of the comic slowly became more refined and dynamic as time went on, which really just goes to show that Robert King got a lot better at hiring ghostwriters as the series progressed. I also find it funny how Batman's suit slowly but surely becomes blue over time as well. Starting out being black with blue highlights, though changing to be blue with black highlights. It's It's kind of funny though, because I'm not sure you could point to a specific issue where it stops being black and starts being blue. It's a process, you can't look at one comic alone, you have to look at the bigger picture. It's weird though, because even though the Batsuit was slowly changed and refined over time, the logo on the front of all Detective Comics still showed a clearly older design for the Batman. Meh, I kinda wish that mindset stuck, honestly. Okay, enough about Batman for the moment. Now I want to talk about his trusted sidekick. Please, come here, Robin. I've always found it really funny how Robin has essentially been with Batman since the very beginning, and yet so many adaptations out there omit his character entirely. Like, it'd be pretty hard, if not straight up impossible, to pick out the best live-action depiction of the Batman. There are so many different actors to choose from, all of them bringing something fresh and new to the character with their own respective performances. Now, try to do the same thing with a live-action Robin and it's Burt Ward, cause who's even had the chance to put their own spin on the character? Don't make me laugh. Honestly, it kinda sucks that he's left out so much. I would love to see another live-action adaptation with the Boy Wonder present. And another thing I want to mention, I see so many people describe the golden age of Batman as something like, the comic started out with an edge, with the Dark Knight prowling through the decaying underbelly of the criminal world. But then Robin came along and the comics lightened up in tone with the addition of the new character, and that is just not accurate. The comics featured maniac killers before and after Robin made his debut. I know the comics did get a lot lighter and, well, goofier as time went on, especially during the Silver Age, but to act like Robin himself brought about that change is at best a gross oversimplification and at worst just plain wrong. And I really have to say, I think the Boy Wonder brought some much needed life to the series. I'm not saying the first 10 comics are bad or anything, they're good in their own right, but simply having someone that Batman can talk to greatly increases the enjoyment factor of these stories. Oh yeah, by the way, in case you were wondering, Alfred has not appeared yet in these comics. His debut wasn't until Batman number 16 in 1943. Robin predated the character of Alfred by over 3 years. Why is he left out of so many adaptations? What is this Robin erasure? One more thing I want to mention before I end the video. The character of Julie Madison. I said that she's never seen again after the end of number 32, and that was a lie for comedic effect. Julie actually comes back much later in Detective Comics number 40, which is also the debut appearance of Clayface. Though here he's not a shape-shifting monster, but just an actor with some heavily applied makeup. Later, in Detective Comics number 49, which happens to be Clayface's second appearance, Julie Madison breaks off her engagement with Bruce Wayne, wishing to pursue her acting career and being dissatisfied with Bruce's lackadaisical approach to life. And then she's never seen again. I get why they decided to write her out. The logistics of having Bruce Wayne secretly fight crime as the Batman, all the while his fiancée is none the wiser, is odd. It's obvious that they just didn't want to bother with her most of the time. Probably why she only had 4 appearances before she was booted out of the series altogether. And if I may be so bold to say, I imagine that they only created her in the first place because they greatly underestimated the longevity of the Batman comics. They needed a damsel in distress for the Caped Crusader to save early on, and it's pretty clear that they just didn't know how to utilize her after that. But hey, at least she left on the note of becoming a film actress. She got off far better than most female characters that writers don't know what to do with anymore. Howdy y'all! I know that to you this is still part of the same video, but we have just reached the end of the original script that I had wrote for the first year of Batman comics. Don't click off yet, we're still not done! Before we go on any further, I do kinda want to explain why I decided to do this series in the first place.
I wanted the money.
God, I wish. I'm still not monetized yet. No, I wanted to cover the first year of Batman comics because there's really a lot that happens in said first year. I think it's really fascinating how you can see the artwork and story improve over time, how the comic itself grows longer as well, with the first few issues only being around 6 pages long and with the first few issues only clocking in at around 6 pages and the latter issues being at least 10 pages long. How you see the introduction of several characters that would become mainstays in the Batman series. Commissioner Gordon, Hugo Strange, Dick Grayson, all of it building up to the final comic where you have the introduction of the Catwoman, and of course, the Joker. That, mixed in with the fact that Batman's first year of comics happens to end on Batman #1, makes it feel really satisfying to talk about the Dark Knight's debut year. Too bad I can't read a calendar. Okay, putting it simply, Detective Comics was a monthly issue. So I just assumed, and you know what they say about assuming, that when we reached Batman #1, which is his 12th comic, that would have been the end of his debut year. I was wrong. You see, Batman's debut comic, Detective Comics #37, was released in May of 1939, while Batman #1 was released in April of 1940. The same month that Robin's debut story, Detective Comics #38, came out as well. And as you can no doubt tell, that's only 11 months. We got one more comic to go, baby! Granted, I probably could have just ignored it and nobody would have noticed, but I personally could not have lived with myself if I came this short to covering Batman's first year of comics this close to the end. So let's close off this retrospective by diving into Detective Comics #39. The story starts on the note of two millionaires, Henry Crandall and John Cobb, being abducted in the middle of the night. One of the chauffeurs dying in the scuffle, being killed by a hatchet being thrown into his head. Oh my lord. I guess I should be expecting this kind of stuff now, but that doesn't make it any less surprising. I guess I should be thankful that they didn't color in any blood. The following morning, Dick and Bruce read about the double kidnapping in the paper, and how the captors are demanding a $100,000 ransom, which is kinda surprisingly low considering the fact that this is two millionaires we're talking about here.
Don't you think we should maybe ask for more than
100,000.
Okay then.
Dick discovers an ad in the paper directly addressed to the Batman, telling the Caped Crusader that a friend needs his help. Seeing that the ad is written with a faux Chinese font, Bruce immediately knows who it is that wants his help. He suits up, telling Dick to stay behind this time, and heads over to the home of Wong, the unofficial mayor of Chinatown. And yes, his name is literally just Wong. This actually isn't Wong's first appearance. He made his debut in Detective Comics #35, when the Batman paid him a visit to ask him some questions about Sin Fang. I didn't mention him back when I reviewed that issue because he was a very minor character in the comic itself, being in only 3 back-to-back panels and really only being there to further drive home the fact that Sin Fang is a bad dude. Anyway, jumping back to issue 39, Batman asks his friend what's the issue. Wong tells the Caped Crusader that a new gang, calling themselves the Green Dragon, has risen in Chinatown, and has started distributing opium to the public! And to think, I nearly stopped this retrospective before I got to the comic where Batman takes on drug dealers. Wong tells the Caped Crusader to come back tomorrow night after he's had some time to gather more information about the Green Dragon. However, the two are blissfully unaware of the fact that they are being spied on by members of the gang as they speak. The following night, Batman instructs Dick to stay behind again as he pays another visit to Wong, only to discover that his friend had brutally been murdered with a hatchet to the back of the head. Batman, seeming to pay no mind at all about the brutal murder of his so-called friend, immediately takes notice of the fact that Wong had scratched the words Pier 3 into the top of the desk. Supposedly, anyway. I don't see anything. However, right after Batman spots the scratched words, two members of the Green Dragon suddenly pop out to take him by surprise. A scuffle breaks out in which the Caped Crusader successfully takes out one of the assassins, though ends up taking a nasty fall as the other tackles him out of the window. The two twist and turn in the air as they fall towards the rapidly approaching ground, ending with the Batman narrowly escaping death by landing on top of his would-be killer. The gangster dies on the spot. while the Batman rolls over unconscious from the fall. Sometime later, Robin, the Boy Wonder, disobeys Bruce's orders and inspects Wong's apartment for himself, discovering the unofficial mayor's deceased body, and the clue that he had scratched into his desktop right before he died. Deciding right then and there to investigate the lead, Robin heads over to the waterfront and finds a lone schooner docked at Pier 3. However, before the Boy Wonder has a chance to react, he's knocked out cold with the broadside of a hatchet. The gangster carries the boy's unconscious body into the schooner. Shortly after, Robin wakes up to be greeted by the leader of the Green Dragon. The gang leader decides to have some fun with the Boy Wonder, giving him a wooden sword and telling him to fight his skilled assassins that have very real metal swords. In the ensuing battles, Robin's sword is slashed to nothing, leaving the Boy Wonder effectively unarmed in the fight. However, using his quick thinking, he pulls out his trusted sling and hurls a steel pellet directly at the gangster's face, David and Goliath style. Very nice of the assassin to take several steps back to allow him to do that, because otherwise Robin would not have had enough space to pull that trick off. Before the leader of the gang, who I'm fairly certain is never named, can send more men to attack Robin, Batman breaks into the scene to save his trusted sidekick. The Cape Crusader swings to the other side of the room and topples over their massive idol, crushing a considerable amount of the gangsters underneath the massive statue, after which the Cape Crusader takes out the gang leader and frees the two millionaire hostages, effectively putting an end to the Green Dragon's reign of terror. Oh, and in one of the last panels, it shows him walking with his fiancée, Julie Madison. So technically, I was wrong when I said she only appeared in 4 comics. But I'm not re-editing that part. You can't make me. And now, the end is near. And I don't know how to end the video. Okay, before I end the video, I do actually want to give credit to the actual artists that worked on every issue that we've looked over so far. I know throughout this entire retrospective, I've kind of joked that Bob Kane is responsible for everything that's bad about the series, and Bill Finger is responsible for everything that's good about the series, but I do want to give actual credit where it's due. Thankfully, the volume set that I've been reading from this entire time actually does give credits to the writers and artists that have worked on the series. So this part of the video will be very easy for me to research. It's nice knowing Detective Comics eventually gave credit to the right people, but I digress. Before I get into it, I want to note that the top of the page says, all stories by Bill Finger and all artwork by Bob Kane except where noted. So when their names aren't listed in the credits, know that they're the ones that did the writing and the artwork for the comic respectively. Though, as you'll soon come to see, Bill Finger put in quite a bit more work than Robert over here. I know, what a surprise. Okay, now let's get with the credits. Detective Comics number 27, written by Bill Finger with artwork and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 28, written by Bill Finger with artwork by Bob Kane and cover art by Fred Gardner. Detective Comics number 29, written by Gardner Fox with artwork and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 30, written by Gardner Fox with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Fred Gardner. Detective Comics number 31, written by Gardner Fox and Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 32, written by Gardner Fox with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Fred Gardner. Detective Comics number 33, written by Gardner Fox with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 34, written by Gardner Fox with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Craig Flessel. Detective Comics number 35, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Sheldon Moldoff as inkers and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 36, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson as inkers and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 37, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson as inkers and cover art by Bob Kane. Detective Comics number 38, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson as the inkers and cover artists. Batman number 1, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson as the inkers and cover artists. And last but not least, Detective Comics number 39, written by Bill Finger with Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson as the inkers and cover artists. I have to imagine when this thing says inkers Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson, that means Jerry Robinson did the majority of the work, because as I said before, there is a noticeable improvement in the actual art of the series, and I highly doubt that's just from Bob Kane slowly improving over time. And yeah, looking into it, Jerry Robinson was the primary artist of the series at this time. So I have to assume that Bob Kane was simply coloring in the lines or something, assuming he even had that much involvement with the series at this point. Maybe this is still me giving the man too much credit, but I can't help but think of Bob Kane as a sort of Steve Jobs type, if you know what I mean.
What do you do?
I play the orchestra.
Is there anything else for me to go over? Oh yeah, okay. I know this is gonna sound very nitpicky, and it's not even about the comics themselves necessarily, but I can't help but mention it. If you look up the Golden Age of Batman online, you will see people talking about the purple gloves he had in his debut issue. Talking about how stupid they were, how much they didn't go with the costume, how much they stuck out, and yeah, all of those things are true. That's why they were immediately swapped out for blue ones. Stop talking about the purple gloves like they were some defining feature of his costume for the majority of the Golden Age. They were only ever in 19 drawings in a 6-page comic book story, and then they were never seen again. And I'm honestly leaning towards the idea that they were just a coloration error, because they actually are colored blue on the cover art for number 27. I know this is nitpicky, but it honestly does irk me seeing so many people online talk about his purple gloves like they were some defining feature of his costume for some considerable amount of time. Just saying, you never see people talk about Superman's yellow boots that way. Okay, rant over. I'm tired. I've been working on this video project for quite some time now. I started working on the script for it shortly after my Westworld video. I actually got done with the script in a fairly quick amount of time. It was very easy to write, which was very nice. Very nice, seeing how nothing else was easy about this project. But even from the get-go, I knew that this Batman retrospective would take quite some time to make, so I decided to do some smaller videos in the time being. I cranked out another AI Rant video. Fun fact, the sweater you see me wearing here is the same sweater that I would make the Batman costume out of. I believe I shot this the day that I bought it, and one day before I sewed the remains of a 2XL black t-shirt to it. Okay guys, I just realized I forgot to wear the cape. Can we just act like I was wearing this the entire time? Thank you. Making these costumes were time-consuming to be sure, but they were definitely worth it in the end. My only regret is the fact that because I'm shooting on green screen, I couldn't make Robin's sleeves the correct color green. But I digress. Anyway, after I made the costumes, I shot all the green screen segments for the video, recorded all of the lines, and then started work on something completely different. Granted, I underestimated how long this project would take to edit, but I still knew that it was going to take a while to edit, so I decided to make this video first so that my channel wouldn't just be void for months on end. It's funny, that video completely bombed when I first posted it. It barely scraped past 200 views. Granted, I don't get great viewership on this channel anyway, but even for my standards, that was bad. But ever since I started this Batman retrospective, that video has very noticeably gotten a boost in views. Granted, it's pretty obvious why. That's the only other Detective Comics thing I have on my channel. So it's pretty clear that YouTube was just recommending that video to people that happen to watch this retrospective series. But still, it's pretty sweet regardless. And if you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend you give it a watch. It's one I'm quite proud of. Go ahead, watch it. I'm not asking. And then after I posted that video, I dived full force into editing the Batman project. Working on all of the audio first, and then working on the visuals after that. So, here's a fun little fact that I'll give to you for free. I didn't know how I was gonna show off the comic before I got to the editing process. At first I thought I could get away with just filming myself flipping through all of the pages of the book and just punching it into the art when need be. but I quickly realized that that was unacceptable. After that though, I quickly landed on what I used for the video itself, simply taking pictures of the artwork and punching it where need be. Hey, it may not be great. The deeper I got into editing, the clearer it became that I was gonna have to split this beast into parts. And then right before I got done with part 1, I threw together my Atari 2600 video. To be fully transparent with y'all, I have a much bigger video in the works right now. Now you know what I was talking about. And you pretty much know the rest from there. I uploaded the Batman retrospective as I finished it, and then most of America froze over, knocking out the power, so now I'm editing the last bit of the video by candlelight with my laptop hooked up to a car battery. Very fun. And now here you are watching the completed project. I definitely could have gotten this out a lot sooner. Heck, I probably could have gotten it out before the new year if I really wanted to. Happy New Year, by the way. But I just kind of wanted to take a break from the project so that I wouldn't have to fool with it over Christmas. Oh yeah, Merry Christmas, by the way. I really hope I'm able to make some seasonal content next year. But hey, this has been fun. Even though this project took me much longer to finish than I thought it would, it's definitely been worth it. Definitely been worth it. It's still hard for me to grasp the fact that my subscriber count has more than doubled since I started this Batman series. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed, and thank you if you decided to subscribe because of this upload. And because the series is over, I no longer have to ask people to subscribe so that they can see the next part in their feed. Okay, well, I'm not gonna ask, but it would be appreciated. Okay, I think I'm finally out of things to say about the first year of Batman comics. Thank y'all for watching all the way to the end, and until next time, goodbye. Look, up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! No, it's the bat signal! Come on, Robin, there's work to be done yet.